Good morning. Welcome to another episode of Mornings with Marla. Today I am here solo, going to talk a lot about microdosing and how it has affected my life and impacted it and changed so many things for the positive. I asked you all what you wanted to hear about, and this was the main one, so here we go. I have a lot to say about microdosing, and we'll just start from the very beginning. I microdose mushrooms. I have been doing that for June, July, August, September, almost 6 months now, which is insane. And my journey started, actually, I found like a Joe Rogan and Paul Stamon's podcast, and I think it's the newest one that they have together. I forgot what episode number it is, but you could totally YouTube it. And then I started to dive deeper and deeper into this realm of microdosing mushrooms and the benefits it can have on people that suffer from anxiety and depression and different mental health disorders. And I know if you follow me on Instagram or Facebook, I've been pretty open about my mental health journey. I have struggled with depression and anxiety since I can remember. I think it started to develop when I was a younger child. Both my parents suffer from depression and anxiety, so it kind of was just waiting to come to me next in the line of genetics, and also probably just some circumstantial situations and traumas and all of those beautiful things that tend to affect our mental health. And I remember when I was younger, not understanding, like I had depression before I understood what depression was. And, you know, it's a interesting thing to deal with when you're a younger child. From stories from my mother, and I blocked some of this stuff out, but I was pretty bullied as a child, especially in middle school. And I think at that age, it's just, you don't have the comprehension or the understanding about what's going on in your life or why these things are happening, especially as a child. It's just like, why is everyone being so mean to me? What did I do to deserve this? And it's just really confusing. And as my life progressed, I, to be completely honest, turned to drugs and alcohol to self-medicate. Started drinking when I was probably 15, partied heavily in college. Glad I got it out of my system. But anxiety is a really, really hard thing to deal with. And depression and anxiety go hand in hand. They're kind of one and the same. If you have severe depression, your anxiety is going to be really bad. And if you have severe anxiety, your depression is going to be bad as well. They're kind of two sides of the same coin. And so for me, my anxiety is just like, it's not necessarily like a restriction of can't breathe, but it feels like my head, like my brain is vibrating, and like my head's gonna roll off my body. Like your thoughts just are going so fast in your head, and you know there's tools. Like for me, I started to get into meditation and yoga, which was super helpful. But when I'm having an anxiety attack, it's the last thing I want to do is sit still and breathe. It's like, how could I sit still right now? And my go-to is kind of starting cleaning. So I can like put all that energy into something and like really like aggressively scrub the counters or the floors. And yeah, so if I'm in a really big tizzy, you'll probably find me cleaning, and that's just been my outlet, or just jamming to music really loud. I do meditate every morning now, which has been a complete game changer, and we'll get into a little bit of morning practice later in the podcast. But it's a really hard thing to deal with, and it comes in waves for me, and I go through worse spurts sometimes. I remember, I think I was 18 the first time I saw a doctor about it, and they prescribed me Zoloft. And I remember taking it the first couple of days and being like, oh my goodness, this is what normal feels like. Like, this is what my brain should be feeling like. It feels normal, it feels regular. And it was just such a click for me about how severe my anxiety was and is. The fact that like having that normal feeling brain was such a drastic difference. And I was on Zoloft for just a couple of months. I took myself off of it because I'm not a fan of pharmaceuticals, and the older I get, the less I become a fan of them. I think, and this is my opinion, but I think antidepressants are overprescribed. I think there are a lot of alternatives, and for me, antidepressants is my very last go-to, my very last resort. I've tried every tool and I'm stuck, really stuck. And I think they're a really, really amazing band-aid when you are in that place of nothing is working. And I really I refer to deep anxiety and depression as trench warfare, because I feel like I'm just in the trenches and I can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. I can't see a way out, and it becomes this like really negative thought pattern and loop, and it's almost impossible to get out of or even recognize that you're there. And for me, these negative thought patterns are such a snowball effect. And I think that's why it's so important to have a strong awareness of your mind and your mental state. And when you are going into negative thought patterns, to be able to recognize them before it's too late and they're snowballing too much. And it's just so easy to fall into that victim mindset, that negative mindset, that everything is happening to me and against me, and like, why is this not working? And sometimes it's situational and circumstantial, like what my job or my home life. And sometimes it's not. And so after college, after getting off of Zoloft, which I cold turkey stopped, which I should not have, and felt really funky for a few days, and then I was fine, but I was just on a low dose. And then I kind of went about my life, ignoring the fact of my mental health, and not understanding what was happening to me, and being just really confused, and just really covering that all up with drinking. And to me, and I know for a lot of people, anxiety, the way to subside it is to have a glass of wine or two, or to go out and binge drink, because then your mind is no longer in that negative headspace and you can just kind of release it and let go of that anxiety. But the problem with alcohol is that in the morning, you feel 10 times worse, and then you want to drink again to subside the anxiety. So it becomes this vicious cycle of, okay, I'm going to drink to get rid of my anxiety, and then I'm going to wake up and have worse anxiety, so I want to drink again to subside my anxiety. So I found myself in this pattern of just drinking and self-medicating, and it was destructive for sure. I mean, I did well in school, and my story isn't that insanely aggressive, but I guess my craziest story was right before I moved to college. I was a senior in high school, and this was when my drinking was the worst. Just I think I could line up like 7 or 8 shots and do them all and not even have a buzz. And I was drinking like 100 proof alcohol and going out every night and not sleeping well. And it's like, no wonder your mental health isn't doing great. But some people know this story. This is pretty personal. But so I ended up crashing my car really bad. I put it into a pond. And I remember driving, and it was raining really hard, and I was going to take a left to my ex-boyfriend's house or a right to my house, and I couldn't make up my mind, and I think I just went straight, and I remember hitting a curb and just like letting go of my steering wheel. And then I don't really remember anything after that, but apparently I put my car in park, took the keys, opened the door, and I don't know if I swam out or what, because my car ended up completely submerged. I must have gotten out before that happened, and like, I'm very fortunate to be alive right now. Airbags went off, windshield smashed completely, tires were shredded. They had to get a scuba diver to come get my car out, and I walked myself to my friend's house and told my friend what happened, called my parents and said, oh, someone stole my car, like, I'm fine, don't worry, I'll be home in the morning. Um, then my ex ended up coming to get me and walked me right to the crime scene. And I was like, you see all those police right there? Those are all waiting for me. And he was like, no, no, you'll be fine. Just walk straight. Meanwhile, I have no shoes on. I'm soaking wet. And of course, they knew it was me, pulled me aside, brought me to the hospital, made sure I was okay. After 2 hours of not drinking, my blood alcohol was 0.3, which is pretty insane. And I was completely fine. No scratches, no bruises, nothing. Someone was definitely watching over me in that moment. And that was kind of this pivotal moment in my life where I was just like, okay, things need to change. This is not okay. Like, my life cannot continue this way. And that is when I picked up and decided to move to Santa Barbara, where I went to college at SBCC, the City College, for studio art. And it was such an amazing experience. But if anyone knows, Santa Barbara and UCSB campus is Isla Vista, and it's just a party scene there too. But it's a little bit more normalized, I think, and, no driving, just walking from house to house. And so, my partying started to continue on, just not as in such a self-destructive way, but more as like, oh, this is amazing. I live on the ocean. Like, this is great. I'm free. I'm living by myself with amazing women. And it just, started to continue to spiral, and the mental health was still not great. Fast forward a while, I'm now in Boulder, Colorado, and have an amazing partner that I live with, and 2 dogs and a cat. And when I first moved here almost 2 years ago, I was living back in Wisconsin for a couple years. I moved home to try and ground and like get out of the party scene of Santa Barbara, and be with family and live with my grandma, who is now 95. And I worked at my dad's restaurant, and it was amazing. And I ended up opening a yoga studio for a summer, and I was known in this little town of 1,200 people as the yoga teacher. It was like this Hollywood fame type thing. And I felt so good about it. My classes were great. I had private clients. I was doing sound healing workshops around Wisconsin. I was getting yeses from all the studios I reached out to. It was just felt very purposeful and what my calling was. But I knew I didn't want to be in Wisconsin forever. It's just not my jam. And it was just a temporary thing. So when I met my partner, at the time, he was like, well, why don't you move out to Boulder? We'll see how it goes. Like, you can live with me. If it goes well, it goes well. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And that was a really big leap for me, for sure, for both of us. It's working out so far. But I found myself in Boulder, this mega yoga hub, and I was one of the many fish in the sea. I was one of the thousands of yoga teachers here, probably. And I reached out to a bunch of studios, and I really wanted to get back into sound healing workshops. And I was just getting so many no's, like never a yes. It was just constant no's. Like, we have teachers that do this. You need to teach here first. We need to know you. You need to come to the studio. You need to know the owners. Like, it was a really hard in to get, which makes sense. But I took it really hard. I was like, well, that sucks. And like, where do I belong now? And what is my purpose now? And my home life was amazing, but I just wasn't fulfilled from the external. I ended up managing a European wax center for a little bit, which was awful. The girls were just mean. It was like thrown right back into middle school, getting bullied, talked crap behind my back. Like, it was awful. The management was terrible. So that was throwing me deeper and deeper into this depressive cycle. And then I finally went back to serving, which I had been doing for, 8 years at the time. And it was just where I felt at home and comfortable. But the serving industry, as some of you probably know, is a party scene in itself. You're working late, and then you go out with your coworkers and you have drinks after work to try and calm down, because it's just such a high energy, like moving so fast, dealing with really horrible customers all the time kind of situation. And I found myself again drinking all the time. And my drinking habits aren't something I talk about a ton. I've been working really hard on getting that under control. And, I cut hard alcohol out of my life. And, I stick to wine or beer and have like a glass or two here and there. And it's not ever like it was, before, where I was just going out and getting blacked out and just, having a great time with my coworkers. But it was just such a easy thing, like get off work, hey, let's go grab drinks, and like, hell yeah, let's go. And sitting at the bar after work, you get your shift drink, and that's how you get started, and you just go. And so it was last summer, and I just felt so bad. And I ended up having a couple of mental breakdowns in around June and July. I remember the 4th of July was one that was really bad. I went home early from the party we were at, and I was just sobbing uncontrollably, to the point where my partner came home and was like, you need to like take some deep breaths because you're going to hyperventilate right now. And I was just like, I just want to die. Like, I don't want to be here anymore. This life is too hard. Being human is too hard. And it was really difficult. In those moments, it seems like because you're such a ball of negative energy and you are so like sporadic and chaotic in those depressive and anxiety episodes, that your friends start to shy away from you. And so you start to lose the people that you care about. No one wants to be around you, which makes it worse. And it's not something you want to talk about. It's something you hold really close to yourself and don't want to share because it's borderline embarrassing. And that's something that I'm really trying to work towards in my life coaching, my confidence coaching, is recognizing that in those moments, having compassion for yourself and understanding that it's okay and it's normal and it'll pass. And I think everyone has varying levels of depression and anxiety. And no one wants to ask for help. It's such a internal, introverted thing. And so I didn't ask for help. I didn't talk to anyone about it. I didn't tell anyone really what was going on. And the people I did tell, I felt like shied away from me even more when I did open up to them. And it's sad because mental health is such a big deal right now, especially during quarantine. Suicide rate went up, and people feel really alone, and it's really sad. And it's important to find people that you trust, that you can talk to, and just be like, hey, I really need to talk to someone right now, or a therapist or a life coach or your partner or your parents, and just ask for an ear to listen, and know it's going to be okay, and know it's not going to last forever, because nothing is forever. Everyone dies, and flowers die, and everything goes through its cycles, and there is such an ebb and a flow. And all I wish someone would have said to me is like, it's okay, you're going to be okay, this is normal, like you can cry and let it go and just really feel these emotions and work through them, and it will pass. And so after, thoughts of suicide started pouring in daily, I knew that I needed help. And that is when I went to a doctor. And this is my last resort. Like I said before, it's not something I take lightly. It's not something I want to do. It's not something I ever want to be on again. And this time, the doctor kind of let me pick what prescription I wanted. And I didn't want to do Zoloft again because I had already done it. I was like, let's try something new. And so I picked Effexor, which is an SNRI. I think it's kind of like a newer antidepressant, anti-anxiety medication. And I wasn't on a ton. I was on 75 milligrams, I think, maybe 150. But there was no disclosure, and I will get there, but I wish there was a disclosure like to sign like, hey, this is going to suck to get off of. Hey, you're going to have zero sex drive on this. Hey, you're going to feel so weird all the time. Hey, if you miss a dose, you're going to like feel like you're going to have a stroke. So I was on Effexor, and the first couple of days I took it, they told me to take it at night, and I didn't sleep for like 4 days, and I felt like I was on Pluto, and I had to go to work and like be a server in like a breakfast place that was really really fast, high turnover, lots of people, lots of tables, and I just felt so out of it. And I was like, wow, this is crazy how a little pill can have such a big effect on my brain. And so fast forward a couple months later, if I missed the dose by an hour or two, or like forgot to take it for the day, my lips and my tongue would get super tingly and feel like they were swelling. And I was just like, okay, I don't like this. And I love being giddy and super happy and super excited and just like amped on life. Like I get giddy at, the little cotton fluffs that fly through the sky, or if I find a little feather, I know it's a little blessing, or the beautiful flowers. Like I have sunflowers growing outside my window right now that I just stare at every day, and that giddiness and lust for life was gone. I felt like a dull penny or something. And obviously the lows weren't as low, and I wasn't having bouts of anxiety and depression, but it just felt wrong. It felt very robotic. And this is the problem with antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication, is especially if you're on a higher dose, is you become very like, let's just go through the motions, and very almost malleable by society. I felt like, okay, this is what society tells you to do this, do that, do that, do that, and like just go with it, and it's gonna be fine, and don't question it. And that's how I feel like I call them depressants, but antidepressants affect you, is in a way of just like, yeah, this is society, abide by it, like stop fighting it. And I was just like, hands in the air, all right, society won, you won, I go with you now, like give me a corporate job, let me walk up the ladder and see what I can do. And like, here we are paying bills, like going through the motions. And then we lay in our deathbed and die with all these regrets on the table, So I was like, no, I'm getting off of this crap. I'm going to do this my own way. And just so happened, we fall into quarantine right as I'm deciding these things, which was such a blessing because I had time and space to really tune in. And so I actually won this, and this is just like divine timing, but I won this weekend retreat with Guru Jagat, and it was called Camp Grace, and it was all virtual because of quarantine. And so for 2 weekends in a row, I was in my yoga room, which this is my yoga, if you're on the video part, this is my yoga room right now I'm sitting in, but I had a tiny little yoga room in our back storage closet. I had all set up, all beautiful, because I was trying to find my way back into yoga again, which I feel like I go in and out of a lot, but when I need it the most, I find myself back on my mat often. And so through Camp Grace, which is a lot of Kundalini yoga, lots of breath work, I was in the midst of coming off my antidepressants or depressants. I had talked to my doctor, because always talk to your doctor to get off of antidepressants or anti-anxiety medication. Literally, Xanax withdrawals can kill you. You never want to cold turkey anything, because it can really just throw you back into a very bad mental headspace. And it's always caution while taking antidepressants and noticing where your mental health is, because they can cause worse depression, and also getting off of them, being really, really careful and really aware, and working with a doctor. Work with a doctor, please. And my doctor had told me that it was going to take me 12 weeks to get off these antidepressants. And I was like, that's like a fourth of the time I've been on them, or a third, or like a half of the time I've been on them. Like, there's no fucking way I'm going to take that long to get off of these things. But I'm pretty in tune with my body. So I started to take them when I felt really weird in the morning, and test out and see how many days I could go without them. And through this Camp Grace experience, I was able to utilize breath work and yoga and just really be in it, and got off of them within, like, I think a month, which was awesome. I wanted to be off of them fully before I started microdosing, because the mushrooms will work with the antidepressants in the state your brain is in, and I didn't want them to be like interacting with each other in any way. I wanted it just to be purely the mushrooms that were affecting me, to see how they would work. And so Camp Grace experience was amazing. I used St. John's wort, ashwagandha, what else did I use? A lot of St. John's wort, because I think you can take up to 3 of the capsules a day. So whenever I felt a little weird or like my brain was getting fuzzy, I would go take a St. John's wort immediately, and that was such a game changer for me, getting off of the antidepressants. I also take B12 and vitamin D, and I was just being really regimented with my herbs that are, like herbs that help with anxiety and stuff like that. And yeah, so basically got off my antidepressants, started taking a lot more herbs. Once I got off my antidepressants, I did a 3-day bone broth cleanse, where I made like a really good bone broth with lots of ginger and like kimchi and mushrooms and scallions and all of that, and like boiled it all together and then strained out the pieces. So I was just eating bone broth 3 times a day, way up to my water intake. Apple cider vinegar in the morning with lemon water, and I was just really, really focusing on how self-care and how much I could put into myself. And so finally get off of these antidepressants, excited to start microdosing. So get my hands on some mushrooms and put them in my NutriBullet, ground them all up, and I take a half of a capsule every other day. And there's a lot of information out there on Reddit. There's a whole microdosing page. Everyone is different. Everyone's brain is different. So this is definitely like a test to what works best for you. One thing I do want to clear up is microdosing is not about hallucinating. Microdosing is not about feeling the mushrooms. Microdosing is about using the magic of the mushrooms as a medicine. So my goal here is never to take them and feel the effects. My goal is to take them to help me with my mental health and my anxiety. So at first I started taking a full capsule. You can just get them at like Whole Foods or on Amazon. It's usually like a 0.01 dose or a 0.02 dose if you have a scale. And it was a little too much for me, and I'm really sensitive to psychedelics. So I noticed it was like kind of bringing up this angst in me instead of like helping with my anxiety. It was almost like throwing these like things I haven't worked through and these shadows I haven't dealt with, and being like, all right, deal with this now. Okay, cool. Deal with this one now. All right, move through this one. And so I recently lowered it to a half capsule, which is a little bit less. I still take it every other day. Some people like doing 3 days on, 4 days off. Some people like doing 4 days on, 3 days off. Some people like taking it every third day. Some people like doing 2 days on, 1 day off. It really depends on you and what feels best. So it's kind of an experiment. There's not too much out there about microdosing yet. I know there have been talk of opening medical clinics for mushrooms, and it's just such a beautiful thing to me because it is a natural thing that grows on this planet. It's not something designed by doctors and scientists that isn't 100% understandable in the way that it's working. it isn't something that is going to have all these side effects of fuzzy brain, tingly lips, zero sex drive, which is the worst. It's like, not only is it lowered sex drive, but it's lowered sensitivity. So in order to orgasm, it is way harder. And personally, an orgasm is beneficial for your health as well. If you haven't listened to de-armoring and orgasms yet, I'd highly suggest going to listen to that podcast. We kind of go into that, me and Jacqueline. And so for me, this is just a no-brainer. Like, why are we not using mushrooms more for mental health care? Or like, they've been studying it for PTSD, and like, why are people taking away this thing that's a natural part of our planet that can help us so much? I don't get it. So hopefully we'll make some progress in that realm. I do know Denver just decriminalized mushrooms, which is an awesome step. But yeah, it's just been such a game changer. And I get nervous about running out, to be honest, because I'm just like, this is my medicine at this point. This is something that I do every other day as my antidepressant and anti-anxiety medication. So it's like, oh my gosh, if I didn't have that, what would I do? And obviously I'd be fine, but I've just found it so much more healing than anything else I've tried. And this is not a cure-all. This is not something you can just take every other day and be like, by anxiety, by depression, whatever. It's still a lot of work, but it makes it a lot more manageable. So for me, it's like, as these emotions bubble up or as this anxiety comes up in me, I've found that I can see that emotion as an outside source rather than an inside source. And I can really look at it as like, okay, Marla, you're having anxiety right now. It's okay. Like lean into this feeling, like sit down on your yoga mat, feel it all, let it bubble up through the heart space and just really come out. If it needs to come out in like a or something like that, like just let it move through you. And so it's, instead of like it becoming you and like enveloping your whole being as like a panic attack, now it's like, okay, I recognize I have anxiety. Let's go use my tools to work through this and really sit with it and feel it. And it's not necessarily that I want to find where that emotion is stemming from anymore, because sometimes it just doesn't, there isn't a catalyst. It just happens. There's no causation. And if you sit there just like, what is causing my anxiety? Why am I going through all of this anxiety? What is blah, blah, blah? It's just like, then you're hyper focusing on the cause when there might not be an exact cause. It could be a multitude of things. And then you're causing more anxiety for yourself because you can't just figure it out. Anxiety to me is not something you can just figure out and put a finger on and be like, that's it, that's the reason, let's fix this. It's something that is a daily struggle and a daily thing to battle with. And now my battle has become a dance rather than like this face-off fight. So I've been really regimented with my herbs in the morning. If you want to know more about what I take, you can find me on Instagram or Facebook. I'd be happy to share and talk more about this. I actually have a whole Google Doc written up called like how I got off of depressants or something like that. And I could totally send that to you too if you want. And I'm totally saying this is me and my body, and this is what worked for me. This is not 100% guaranteed to work for you. And again, to come off antidepressants, please work with a doctor. It is really important to work with a doctor and have a mental health professional be checking in with you constantly through this process. But so on my microdosing journey, I have found that when I forget it, I can tell the difference. So it's like the day I take it, now that I lowered my dose, I feel very focused and energized. I feel like I'm enjoying my tasks throughout the day. Like I enjoy taking the garbage out, and I enjoy doing the dishes, and I enjoy wiping down the counters, and I enjoy taking my dogs out, and I enjoy being out in nature, and I find the beauty in the little things again, where I'm just like outside and I'm like, oh, that wind feels really nice, or the sun on my face feels really good, or wow, that flower is so beautiful. Like, let's get closer and look at all the details. And not in a hallucinatory way, not in like a, oh, these colors are like way more vibrant or anything like that, but just in a way of like feeling more gratitude for the things around me and the things I do have, and like the working through the emotions and the ability to sit with them and see them as an external thing rather than something that is just wrapping me up and holding me tight. With the microdosing, I cultivated a morning practice, which I think is so important. And I carve out 20 minutes of my morning every single morning. I guess not every single morning, but most mornings. And I definitely notice the difference between the mornings I do have my practice and the mornings I don't. So again, mushrooms are not the magic cure-all. They are something that is helping me with my mental health greatly, but also because I'm implementing all of these other things along with it. And mostly because I don't want to go back on antidepressants again. That was awful. Never again. Great Band-Aid, not a lifelong thing for me. But yeah, so my morning practice is 20 minutes. I don't check my phone. That has been a game changer. I turned off all my notifications, which is huge, because when you wake up in the morning and you roll over, because I'm sure you use your phone as your alarm clock, and you see like 10 Facebook alerts and 15 emails and 5 things on Instagram and all of these things, you're just like, oh, instantly roll over action mode, instantly like on that phone time. And I know it's really easy to roll over, grab your phone, sit in bed for 30 minutes, check all your notifications, then get up and start your day. But this is instantly putting your brain in a state of chaos, and you're immediately putting your time into someone else's hands. And my biggest reminder was, like, if I don't respond to these people for 20 minutes, they're not going to know the difference. Like, they're not going to notice if I'm responding now or in an hour or now in 20 minutes from now. So what I do is I just wake up, turn my alarm off, and set my phone aside. And then I make myself tea or cacao. I like to say I'm making my little morning potion. I do that really intentionally and just really like love up my concoction that I make. I do like cacao, vanilla, lion's mane, turmeric, black pepper, which is a turmeric activator, honey and oat milk, and I have the little frothy wand, and I get out my wand and I froth it all up and add hot water, and it's just something that I love to do every morning. And then I just like hold it close and smell it and taste it and awaken all my senses as I do this. And then I love to get on my yoga mat, and some mornings it looks like sitting still for 10 to 20 minutes. Some mornings it looks like moving my body. Some mornings it looks like dancing, sometimes journaling. It just really depends on what's calling me that morning and what I'm feeling in that moment. And the amount of game change that just 20 minutes every morning has created during my day. I am calmer. Things upset me less often. I have way higher patience. My tolerance is higher. My day is better. My gratitude is greater. And then the days I don't do my morning practice, I feel like my day starts in a very chaotic motion, and that chaos carries through the day, and I'm actually less productive because my mind is just going so fast. I really love alternate nostril breathing is a great one. And if you don't have a meditation practice, or you think like, okay, how am I going to sit still for 20 minutes? Like, the New York Times just came out with this study. This blows my mind. They came out with this study and they put people in a room for 15 minutes with nothing in the room except for an electric shock machine. And I think it was like 80% of the people, don't quote me on this because I need to look back at that article, but I think it was like 80% of the people decided to shock themselves rather than sit still in silence by themselves for 15 minutes. This is a societal issue, like really big time. If you can't sit still in a room by yourself for 15 minutes, we need to start practicing. You can start with 3 minutes if that feels more tangible, but to be able to sit for 15 minutes in quiet stillness and not freak out is a big deal. And it shouldn't, I mean, I understand the difficulty behind it, because when I first started meditating, I was like, there's no way I could sit for 15 minutes. So I started with 5, but now I'm just like, some days I could sit for an hour. Some days I'd prefer movement. Some days I lose track of time and I just, flow through, and I look at my clock and I'm like, oh, wow, it's been like 45 minutes. This is amazing. Especially on the weekends when I have time. But yeah, let's look at if you can sit still for 15 minutes, because to me, meditation, it can seem intimidating. And clearly, after this study, but it doesn't have to look like sitting cross-legged with your hands on top of your knees, with your pointer finger and thumb touching, and just closing your eyes and breathing with complete silence around you. Meditation is a mental challenge. It's also a let go of the thought process. And yes, gurus can probably clear their minds completely for hours at a time, but without a ton of practice like that, and without doing that daily all the time, it's really hard to clear your thoughts. And they're continually going and going and going. I got to do this. I got to get that done. And we got to do this today. We got to go there. We got to see this person. And it just it becomes a lot. And so meditation to me is allowing those thoughts to pass and move through, as if the wind was blowing like from one ear to the other, through the other one, or a cloud was passing. So to me, meditation is so about recognizing those thoughts and being like, okay, that's fine. I'm having a thought right now. I'm going to let it go, and not attaching to them. So it's the practice of detaching from the thoughts and allowing them to just flow by, rather than grasping onto them and getting stressed about them. And I play music when I meditate. Like, that is my favorite thing. And I have a bunch of meditation playlists on Spotify. You can find me on Instagram. I have all my links in my link tree on there in my bio. And it doesn't need to look like any certain thing. Sometimes I'm like rocking side to side or rolling in circles. Sometimes I'm doing alternate nostril breathing. Sometimes I am sitting still. Sometimes I'm focusing on my breath in my nose and out my mouth. Sometimes I can sit and breathe for a song length, like 5 minutes, and sometimes I can sit through 5 songs, and then and sometimes I just want to be moving my body, breathing. But even movement can be a meditation when you're linking your breath to your body movements. So even like inhaling, raising your arms up, exhaling, bringing your hands down to heart center, palms touching. Inhale, raising your arms up, and just linking this movement to this breath pattern, so it occupies your mind a little bit more, so it's easier to do. And to me, it's lean into what feels good. Like when people say, how do you meditate? It's like, well, what feels best for you? Does like some movement feel best for you right now? Or does like just pure sitting feel good for you? It can even look like taking 5 deep breaths 3 times a day. Like set an alarm in your phone, 5 deep breaths, and have it pop off, in the morning, afternoon, and at night. Or if you're in line and you're just aggravated, it's just like, that's a moment to tap into your meditation space and take really conscious, deep, big breaths. Another thing about the breathing is we breathe very shallow throughout our day. We're just like and like not really breathing actually at all. And to be able to just like really fill up the chest all the way to the throat, and then try it like right now. Try a deep breath. Big inhale in the nose. Big exhale out the mouth. Just notice one breath, what a difference that makes. So even if you can do that 5 times in the morning before you go brush your teeth, that will even impact your day too. So it's just using these little tools in combination with the microdosing, which has been just a complete game changer in my life. It's been such a beautiful unfolding and experience and discovery, and I'm so thankful for the information that is out there, and the Reddit groups and the humans answering questions, and just the exploration of this new medicine to me has just been such a blessing, in combination with the first 20 minutes of my morning, which now I would not give up my morning practice for 20 more minutes of sleep. And the more I integrate it into my mornings, the less it feels like, how do I fit this in? The more it just becomes a natural progression of my day. And I have responsibilities in the morning too. I have to take my dogs out. I have to feed them. I have to feed the kitten. I have to make my potion. Sometimes I have to put dishes away. And I just don't let that affect my stride anymore. It used to make me like really upset. Like, I have to bring the dogs out and I have to feed them and then I have to do the dishes and then I could sit on my yoga mat and, and I'd have all these like anger things about all these responsibilities I had. And now it's just like, it's just shifting your mindset, which I feel like the microdosing has helped me do a little bit more easily, or recognize it's like when I am in that negative thought pattern, like, hey, life is really good. You have 2 amazing animals or 3 amazing animals, and you get to go outside right now. And like the last couple of days I've been going outside and the moon is just huge in the sky and it's bright out, but you can see this little like misty moon out there, and I just look at it. Or at night when I take the dogs out, I'm just like basking under the stars and looking at my sunflowers and putting my feet in the grass and feeling the wind on my face and just turning it into this experience that is not a chore anymore. It's just doing it with intention and doing it with gratitude and being so thankful that you have this day to do these things. And it's not to say it's perfect all the time. Like, I'm not a perfect human being by any means. Some mornings I get really angry about it. Some mornings I'm in my tizzy, just like upset about all the things I have to do. But when I'm in those moments, I know that I just need to get on my yoga mat for 20 minutes and either move my body or dance or just like let it all out in some sort of sound form, or like light my bowls or my gong, or light an incense, or put some peppermint oil on, like whatever little things I have around. I know when I'm in that state of like aggravation or anxiety that these are the tools that will help me. And microdosing has helped me tap into those a lot deeper and actually utilize them rather than just knowing about them. Because there's 2 different things. There's people who know they have the tools, like I was, and I am still sometimes. I'm like, I know I have all these tools, but I'm not doing any of them right now. Into this motion of, oh, I have all these tools, like I'm feeling this kind of way, like let me go utilize my tools and feel better in literally 20 minutes. So yeah, morning practice, so important. First 20 minutes, stay off your phone, turn your notifications off, have space for yourself. Like, when during the day do we actually have time for ourselves to self-care and nourish? And everything is just going so fast all the time. So to be able to take that 20 minutes and just slow down and love on yourself and show compassion for the space that you're in and the feelings that you're having. And I mean, some mornings it looks like I sit on my yoga mat and bawl my eyes out and cry, and allowing that to move through, and that process of emotion is just so powerful. And eventually you can use that emotion as like this catalyst or this fire. It's just like, all right, cool. All emotions are good emotions. Like, feel them all. Like, these are all part of you. And some of them might feel a little shadowy, or like you don't want to expose them. Like, you're like, ooh, don't see that part of me. But they're all good, and they're all catalysts into something higher and better. And I feel like if you have good intentions, they can all lead you to deeper unconditional love. And that is the energy that I feel like is universal energy, is universal love. And if you can embody unconditional love, sorry, universal energy is unconditional love. But if you can embody that unconditional love always, no matter what moments you're in, it just becomes a complete shift. If you can unconditionally love the person that cut you off in the car, if you can unconditionally love the person that's being really mean to you and projecting their own insecurities on you, if you can unconditionally love yourself first and foremost, like, have so much love for yourself and where you are and what space you're in. And if you are depressed right now, love yourself for that emotion and that space you're in, because it will end. It won't last forever, and it's only going to catalyze you into a greater space later. I really believe in the ebb and the flow of life, and without one, you can't have the other. It's polarity. It's light and dark. It's just part of our existence and our being. And if we didn't have those, what would life really be? So having gratitude for those shit moments and the traumas and the really, really hard things that we need to deal with and work through in our lives. Like, being a human is not easy. And no one tells you that being human is not a cakewalk. It's hard. It's really hard to be a human being with everything going on with politics and society, and people are just mean sometimes, and feeling alone and feeling like you have no one to talk to. And these are all normal things, and humanity is all suffering in some way. The thing that stuck with me so hard throughout my life is every single person you walk by on the street, if you ask them, what is your trauma today? What have you been going through today? What's your hardship today? What are you suffering through today? Everyone will have an answer for you. And to be able to see that in every single soul that you pass is such a change. It's such a shift in energy. It's like, okay, maybe you're having a really bad day because your foot hurts or something. And, so you're going to be bitter to me when I pay for my coffee. And just noticing, like, okay, so all these emotions that are being projected onto me, like, don't take them personally. It's what every single person is going through something else during that day, and they're all in their own pain, and they're all dealing with it in their own way. And some people are just not leveled up enough yet to be able to deal with their emotions in a way that isn't viciously putting them onto someone else. So as you walk through your day, notice who you're passing, and have compassion for them and unconditional love for them and the place that they're in, because not everyone's having a good day all the time. And we're all walking through this life carrying our own burdens and our own traumas and our own stories. And some stories are better than others, but sometimes the stories are just hard. And if we can just look at people and recognize that everyone is living their own narrative, they're all going through their own hardships, they're all dealing with it in their own way, and everyone has the right to their own existence and how they want to go about that. And just having compassion for them, no matter what they make you feel like, and being able to tap back to your breath is just, it'll help you move through life with so much more grace and ease, because as you know, life is bumpy and turbulent, and I like to compare it to the ocean. It's just like the ebb and the flow, and as long as you can embody and ride the wave, baby, just ride it. That's when it becomes something magical and special. And I'll end with this thought. So I'm so blessed. I'm feeling so blessed right now and so grateful. This podcast, I'm on episode 4. We have almost 100 views now, which for some might be like, oh, wow, 100, great, good for you. For me, I'm like, 100 people have seen this is amazing. And I'm just feeling so grateful about it. And yeah, so anyway, thank you all for listening so much. And what I was going to say is people have been being like, oh, Marla, like I've been wanting to do a podcast for years now, and like, what did you do? And I was like, well, I just did it because I wanted to, and why wait? You know, if you want to do something, why not do it now? So my challenge for you is, what is something that you really want to do? And it doesn't have to be to the world. Like if you wanted to make a podcast, you could do one for yourself. Or if you want to paint a beautiful painting, you could do it for yourself. You don't have to show anyone. Or if you want to like go tell someone that you really love them so much, it's a question of, if you were to die tomorrow and you were laying on your deathbed, where would your regrets be stemming from? Would you regret not telling that person you love them? Would you regret not starting the podcast? Would you regret not posting the Instagram post, something you're hesitant that people might take the wrong way? And that's how I live my life, is like tomorrow's never promised, and it might be a little too up in the air for a lot of people. Like I lack some ground and structure. I'm very in the feminine in that aspect of like, oh, just go for it. Let's do it. Like tomorrow's not promised. Like, let's just do all of it. Let's spend all the money, you know, and it could be a little bit chaotic and like not very logical or realistic at times. But to me, it's just, that's just what I need to do. I have thoughts coming in all the time. I have ideas going all the time, and I have to engage in them and see if they work. And if they don't work, they don't work, whatever. Like I'm not too attached to it. But it just like my greatest fear, I think, is laying on my deathbed and being like, wow, I really regret not doing that in my life. And just like moving through the motions of getting a job, working up the corporate ladder, getting married, buying a house, having a baby, retiring, playing golf, dying. Like that, I want to be legendary. I want to leave this life with just as much impact and as much positivity as possible. And in order to do that, you just have to jump off the cliff sometimes. You have to do it no matter how scary it is, no matter how much fear and resistance there is. Sometimes you just have to lean into it. And those moments, as is the ebb and the flow or the bouts of depression, the moments when you can lean into the fear and the resistance, that is where the magic happens. That is where the greatest power is, because that is what your purpose and being wants the most, is the things you're most afraid of. And what I didn't touch on is, for me, purpose, having a purpose, knowing what your purpose is my key to staying out of depression. And I think when you feel purposeless and lifeless and lustless, that's when the depression really sets in. So that is where like the fear bubbling up and the resistance bubbling up is where your alignment and purpose and passion lie the most, because fear and excitement are one and the same frequency and energy. And if you're excited about something, that means it's good. So if you have a little fear behind something, that's good too. So like lean into that. And that is a lot of information. I hope you found that all helpful. Again, I'm feeling so blessed and so grateful to be providing this for you. I look forward to recording these every Saturday, and sometimes I'm like, oh my God, maybe I should do 2 because I have so much to say, but just, it feels so good to be doing this, and it feels so good to be receiving the love from you, actually viewing and watching and listening and following along. And if you've made it this far, my gratitude goes out to you, and thank you for supporting me. I am a confidence coach. I teach private yoga classes. I do sound healings. I'm now doing a podcast. And these are all things that are so aligned with my purpose and make me feel so lit up and on fire. And it's just such a blessing to be sitting here bringing this to you and just speaking my truth and my vulnerability and using my voice and having it resonate with some of you. So I thank you. My Instagram is _Marmo, MARMO. You can find me there, direct message me if you have any questions about microdosing or want some more resources. I can totally send you what I was looking into. I can also send you the Google Doc with all like the vitamins and herbs I've been using. And if you want to know more about a morning practice, please reach out. I love helping people in that realm. And my purpose here is to help others work through the struggles I have been through and use my medicine to help heal not only myself, but others through the healing of myself. So yeah, love you all so, so much. Thank you for listening to another episode of Mornings with Marla. We will be back next week on Sunday. Not 100% sure what's going to happen next week, but we will see. I really want to get Jacqueline back on here. I have a couple other ideas and everything's just unfolding as it should. So blessings. I hope you had a beautiful weekend and I hope you are having a amazing, magnificent morning. Again, thank you so much for tuning in to Mornings with Marla. Sending so much love to you. Mwah!